Hello and welcome to this theatrical Halloween tutorial. Today I'm turning myself into a horror classic. This is Bram Stoker's Dracula. If you want to see how I did this old age makeup, then just keep watching. I'm starting off by being a normal 20-something-year-old girl with weird hair. The first step for this transformation is taking that weird hair and securing it back. For me, I found the best way to do this was to French braid it and then spray the living daylights out of it with hairspray. From there, I'm slipping on a bald cap, which always are way too big for everybody. So what you have to do is mark out where your hairline is. To do that, I'm taking eyeshadow and then cutting into the bald cap to remove the excess. Be careful with this. Obviously, you don't want to cut yourself when you're doing this process. I'm using small little scissors and essentially just hacking into the bald cap. Having those guidelines as to where your hair is very helpful when you're doing this step so you don't overcut your bald cap. When in doubt, cut less as opposed to cutting more because you can always cut it off afterwards, but if you remove too much of the bald cap, you can't really come back from that. From there, I'm taking Prosaide, which is an adhesive, applying that onto my skin with a sponge. You want to wait until that Prosaide is clear and then stretch the bald cap down onto the skin and press it in to secure. I'm then cutting off a little bit more of that bald cap before moving on to the other side. Now, I knew that for this look, my main focus was the forehead, so I wasn't too fussy about the back of the bald cap. If you're doing a full bald cap application, obviously you maybe want to put a little bit more time and effort into the back of it, but for me, it was the forehead that was the main important part. To blend the bald cap into my skin, I'm taking acetone on a Q-tip. You want to be careful with acetone because it does melt the bald cap, but it will also be very bad for your eyeballs if you get it in there. You'll ruin your day if you get acetone in your eyes. So definitely don't oversaturate your cotton Q-tip and gently roll that over the edges to make them disappear into the skin. To not only seal the bald cap down, but also make it so you can paint on top of it, you need to apply Prosaide again over everything. I'm using a sponge to do this and making sure that the bald cap is fully coated. I waited for that Prosaide to get a bit sticky and then put on my pre-styled wig. Probably should have filmed a tutorial on styling this wig, but I didn't. All I did was just do 2 massive victory rolls in a blonde wig and then braid it down the back. Once that hairpiece was nice and secure, I powdered the remaining exposed bald cap to set that and take away any tackiness from the glue. I then moved into doing a brow block, taking a hair glue. I flattened my brows and glued them down to my face. Then with nose and scar wax, begin to build over top to eliminate the appearance of my eyebrows. I did a better, more in-depth brow block in my 1930s Ringmaster tutorial from this year's Halloween series. So if you do have any more questions about brow blocking, I would definitely recommend watching that video. Once I was happy with the layers of wax, I set that with Prosaide and then powdered on top. Off camera, I popped in a set of black contact lenses and began to work on the face painting part of this look. Taking a medium to full coverage liquid foundation, I covered my entire face with this. If you have really dark hair that you can see through the bald cap, I would recommend putting down an orange tone cream color corrector first. That'll minimize out any dark hair that you could see shadowing through the bald cap. For me, my hair was fairly light, so I didn't really need to. I did, however, take a full coverage stick foundation and covered up a little bit of the green that you could still see. Now onto my favorite part, which is creating the theatrical highlights and shadows of this look. I took a white full coverage cream foundation and mapped out all of the high points of the face. I was referencing a photo of Dracula throughout this entire step. All of the face painting, I was looking at a photo, which is what you want to do when you're replicating a character. So by constantly looking at that photo, I could see where the high points were of all the folds in his face, all of the wrinkles, everything that was hitting the light, I replicated on my face with this white shade. This is a very theatrical makeup, of course, because I didn't have the resources to do a full old age prosthetic like they did to Gary Oldman in the movies. But honestly, for parties and whatnot, a theatrical makeup does just as well because you're totally going to get the point across which character you are. To create the lowlights, I switched into a grayish purple tone cream product, and again, referencing that photo, started to map out where all of the depths and the crevices were in his face. These are the darkest points, so the most sunken in wrinkles and creases I created with this product. I'm a fan of applying first my highlights and my lowlights before blending everything out. I don't know if other artists do that or that's just me, but I like blending those all out together. The trick with the theatrical makeup though is you don't want to over blend because you really need that harsh difference between the dark shades and light shades to create the appearance of your character. Man, this is really hard to explain what I'm doing. I hope this makes sense. A lot of looks like this are very much into artistic interpretation and are pretty tricky to explain because I'm kind of just eyeballing it. Even though our elderly Dracula was very, very pale, he did still have some pinkiness around his lips as well as his eyes. So to achieve that, I'm taking some blush tone powder products on an angled brush and applying them very concentrated to specific areas. I do really like the pinky tones around the eyes. I think it's nice and creepy and it makes the character look a little bit more human. But you don't want to mess with your highlights in this step, so make sure to keep those products in your more contoured areas. With a mix of those pinky shades as well as some gray tones on a fine angled brush, I went even harder into those wrinkles. So this is where I wanted to fine tune the look and really add those tiny details that bring the character to life. Like I said, I was referencing a photo here, so I tried to replicate where his wrinkles were and where I was going to create my own. I looked so pretty here, so glamorous, such a wedding look. I felt it. I felt good. I felt old. And it was a lot of fun. I would say this part of doing the wrinkle fine tuning probably took the longest of the entire creation, but even though it looks like a pretty big undertaking, this whole thing actually didn't take me that long. So I was pretty pleased with that. I think in the end it took me about an hour and a half to do everything, which is fairly standard for a theater look, but I was moving pretty quickly. Once I was happy with those fine lines, I took my original foundation brush and pressed them out a little bit just to give them a tiny bit more softness so they didn't look quite so drawn on. I then took a variation of fluffy brushes and the same shadow products and added some contour in a few strategic areas of my face, like underneath my eyes, to make them look a bit more puffy, as well as around the perimeters of my face, specifically that hairline, so that it wouldn't look quite so detached from the wig to the bald cap. It just needed a bit more shadowing around there. Now all that's left is a few final finishing touches. I applied some cream foundation on a spoolie brush in my eyelashes. Typically, as you age, you lose pigmentation in your eyelashes, so this is a great step to really finish off an old age makeup. I also set my entire face in powder because we did use a lot of cream products here, and then took a nice little glug from a fake blood bottle. This is mouth safe fake blood, and that is this look done. I successfully transformed myself into an elderly man who is also a vampire. And that is everything for today. I will see you again so soon. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.